back yourself, back your idea. Don't lose time just because you are waiting for your idea to be perfect. It is about testing it and moving forward, making it better and better so that you're able to fit the audience needs. So if that answers your question, then I'm happy.
Hey, and welcome to the Change Leaders Playbook, bringing you all things delivery leadership in a podcast. I'm your host, Cliff, an experienced leader of project and program delivery teams. I'm joined today by Anushka Malhotra, Head of Marketing for TechWM or Tech West Midlands. Anushka brings a wealth of experience working with project teams, tech startups and scale-ups alike. Now, Tech West Midlands is an independent not-for-profit organisation that sits at the heart of the tech sector in the West Midlands region of the UK. Their goal is to grow the region's digital economy and establish it as an internationally recognised tech hub. Through supporting businesses and creating opportunities to promote the region, we'll talk about Anushka's background in marketing, what makes a great product, and key aspects of successful delivery teams, plus a bit of advice for delivery teams and startups. Now here's an interesting fact. Anushka had a former life once as a child cinema actor, which does say a lot about her presence and her personal branding. In short, I think it's going to be a great episode. So let's say hi to Anushka. Great. So, Anushka, tell us a bit more about you, how you got into your role in marketing and your background, how you got to where you are.
I like to identify myself as a storyteller because I feel communication is so critical and so important to kind of communicate what is it that you do, what are the products that you're offering, what are the services or rather what is the value that you're giving. And I've been a marketer since the beginning, and it has been like a straightforward journey. I did my undergrad in business and marketing, did my master's in marketing, and I've just been surrounding myself with exciting storytelling and exciting ways of communicating value to the audience. So that has been me. And yeah, with my role at Tech West Midlands, basically I amplify all the great things, the great business leaders, the convergent thinkers, and the great businesses that the West Midlands holds, the events, the initiatives. It's about just promoting and, of course, creating West Midlands tech sector as the next tech and digital superpower by 2030. And anyway, what is stopping us from having ambitious goals?
That's fantastic. Brilliant. So there's clearly a lot of work to come within Tech West Mids. What have been the key highlights that you can sort of remember or name from the past 2 to 3 years for Tech West Mids?
I mean, we started off with a very humble vision back in 2019, to be honest. It started off with Birmingham Tech Week. And the idea was conceived with that if London is having a London Tech Week, what is stopping us from having Birmingham Tech Week as well? So we started off, and I was quite fortunate to be a part of the inception of Birmingham Tech Week as well back in 2019. And yeah, the idea was just to celebrate and inspire people, get people together and showcase the world, the prowess that Birmingham as a city and the West Midlands as a region holds as well. And of course, because it was our first time doing it, we did not set high expectations. We said that, it would be good for us to have a few speakers who can share their thoughts, share some sort of knowledge that people can use. And we were humble enough to expect like about 500, 600 people to turn up for the event, right? But it was massive. We had over 5,000 people just come together. And that in fact even, made us realize that our community as a West Midlands tech sector is so collaborative. Like everybody wants to come together. They want to help people. They want to inspire. They want to do big things. But at the same time, we are quite humble. We will not go about posting about the success that we have or the prowess that we have, but we will just do the work and let our work do the talking. So it started off with that. And then through that, we realized that, and of course, in 2021, I think we were crowned, West Midlands was crowned as the UK's fastest growing tech sector. So we realized that there's definitely something good that we're doing. But we also realize that there's a lot more that we can do because there are so many complexities, because everything is just so fragmented, and that is why Tech West Midlands was formed. It's about connecting people within the ecosystem. It is about helping them to give that access so that they can navigate through the complexities of the ecosystem. It is about promoting and amplifying the goodness that the West Midlands tech sector has. And it is also about transforming the critical aspects of any region, and just realizing what are the good things that are working and improving on the things that need a little more work as well.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. And I'm also mindful of the fact that whilst the West Midlands tech sector is the fastest growing, there's a lot to come. So what are the themes that you're seeing in terms of technology, in terms of the evolution of tech that this region is starting to get involved in and potentially lead on? What are the key themes that you are seeing of late?
So the interesting bit about West Midlands as a region is that, of course, Birmingham was known as the city of thousand trades. We started off with the Industrial Revolution. So our region has the potential. And our vision is also to be at the center of the digital revolution as well. We envision that we definitely have the capabilities to kind of connect tech with creativity, and to create innovation, create startups, create those businesses that have the potential to become global superpowers and global tech trailblazers as well. And I think what is actually helping us achieve that is the people. We have such a diverse total talent pool. We have such a supportive, collaborative community. We have easy access to leaders who are willing to share their experiences, willing to help startups and scale-ups grow. We have people who are willing to come together to help us realize that vision. So I feel, and of course, you definitely have your infrastructure, you have investments, you have all these things, which are the critical levers and the drivers. But what I feel that is helping us is the people. And that is definitely going to take us where we want to be.
Brilliant, amazing. And I've personally seen and worked with quite a few pretty innovative people over the past few months and years, even actually, all centered around this area. And it's great to see. It's great to be part of it. So, bearing that in mind, then, what are the things that you think make a really successful leader? I'm going to shift gears a bit because you've worked with quite a few leaders, you've worked with quite a few startups, and you've seen from afar and close.
One thing that I've realized, and of course there are good leaders, there are bad leaders as well. Not necessarily bad people, but they may not know the best way to lead people. What I feel, it's as humans, we like agency, we like control. And of course, there is a thin line there. You cannot be excessively controlling over things. But as individual, be it as a team player or a team leader, just as individuals, we like that agency. What I've realized is that when your leader entrusts power in you and lets you decide things, that kind of I feel, and also is willing to guide you, is willing to give you critical feedback, is appreciating you as well, and is willing to share knowledge with you, it's pretty much is willing to lead the pack rather than just being a one-man army. That I feel definitely makes a good leader, in my opinion.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I've certainly been at the receiving end of that to a degree, and learned from leaders in that front, definitely sharing knowledge, and in many respects taking a back seat and empowering people. I've recognized has been pretty powerful, really.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, all of us are creatures of control, right? I mean, you feel if I dip my toes into psychology as well as individual, people tend to feel extremely anxious when they don't have control of a situation, they don't have control over things, and they're just probably forced to do something that maybe they not be willing to do. So when you tend to give agency to them, when you make them feel empowered, make them feel valued, make them believe that their opinions matter and they're equally important to the organization, that kind of creates that drive within them also to perform a lot better, if that makes sense, because they feel it is the choice that they have made. They are onto this journey of living the values of the organization, living the vision of the organization, and they have been entrusted with that power to deliver on that. They will definitely do a better job than forcing them to do something that they're just doing half-heartedly.
Indeed. Amazing. Really insightful. So I want to talk a bit more about the teams that you've worked in. So again, you and I have had some time working together briefly, too short, of course, not long enough. And, I know that you will have seen how teams work pretty well together to deliver projects, but not just projects, but the outcomes that projects provide. What are the things that you've seen that you think actually make a successful team in terms of the way that they work together, as well as the output that they produce?
That's actually quite an interesting question. I mean, essentially, I think I came across this concept of a culture fit or a star fit when it comes to a cultural organization. I think it was on a podcast by Adam Grant, and he mentioned, which I completely and totally resonate with as well, that having a team that is more of built on a commitment culture, that for me, I personally feel works very well. And when I speak of commitment culture, that means that they're aligned with the values and the vision and it could be a business or it could be a product. It could be like, when I'm speaking about a culture fit, it could be particularly for the development of the product or just any business. So that kind of, I think, works really well. But the caveat here, or the risk here, is that you tend to put similar people together, but there may not be diversity of thought, because probably you're just weeding out people who may have different thought processes. So I think the right balance between the key players within the team is really important. You cannot have everyone, say, for example, who is too critical. Because if everyone is too critical in the team, no product will fly off the ground, because they will only find faults. We need someone to give that sense of enthusiasm that, hey, there is some merit into developing this certain idea as well. So I think finding the right mix is extremely important, while all of them are aligned towards delivering value or realizing the vision or realizing the mission that they're working towards. And the third thing I feel is the willingness to share ideas, if that makes sense. What I have realized in my past experiences working with teams, and when I'm asked to give them feedback of how would this arrangement have been better, my only feedback to them is just open up, share. No idea is stupid, if that makes sense. I mean, an idea without execution is hallucination, but until and unless you communicate what the idea is, you will never know what the potential that idea holds. So yeah, that's my take on a successful team.
Fantastic. And let's talk a bit more about product.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe what is a product and what could that be? But what makes a great product to you? Because clearly those of us that are in a delivery community, we're out there to deliver game-changing features, products and outcomes, really. This is quite a broad one, but in your experience as a marketer, what makes a great product to you?
Well, let me put you on a spot this time. Let me ask you. You are the specialist in this field. You tell me, what is it?
Amazing. So there are many types, and many of us look at things in terms of just what is physically tangible. So you could be building, some form of machinery or great software or great app. For me, I would say a great product, a product in the first instance, is something that has an audience, a community of users that has a purpose to deliver an outcome. That's kind of what a product could be, which means it could actually be a product. Doesn't have to be something more tangible. It just has to be something that we can measure, that people want to use and take advantage of. So that's one answer. And I won't answer for you in terms of what makes it great, but I think for me, it's more about whether it fits its initial criteria, but actually whether it is evolving, whether it can evolve to achieve something that almost is beyond what it originally expected to achieve. There's some great products that have done that.
Yeah, that is quite interesting actually, because when you speak of I mean, we've of course had all these models of the 4 Ps of marketing. It's product, price, place, promotion. So essentially, there's always like a tangible thing associated with this, with the concept and the ideology of what a product is. But yeah, it is quite an interesting thought around what product can actually mean, and in our context, or in the context of Tech West Midlands, I feel understanding your audience, or like you even mentioned actually in your answer as well, that I personally feel that any value that you're able to add to your audience, and if your audience is able to resonate with that, that is definitely a mark of the success of the product. It is extremely important for you to know what is it that your audience truly needs. And interestingly, I'll just tie this back with the conversations around the development of our Tech West Midlands website. And of course, you always have these great ideas of how can you be more innovative, how can it be a lot more tech focused, and it's just adding those glam to it so that it feels like it's a tech website. But interestingly, one of the leads on the project also pointed this out, and we came to this consensus that it is important for us to test it as well. Because what is the point of you adding layers and layers to it when it does not necessarily deliver the value that it was built for, and second, maybe the users don't even want it. So it is important for any project team to understand what value will that product deliver to its audience, and if that is truly something that the audience wants.
Very, very true. And that certainly resonates with me. Have you been in a situation where, for example, you've wanted a product to be delivered or something to be brought to market, but actually you've asked for maybe too much without testing or without actually getting maybe an MVP or something useful in the first place to learn from?
That has happened a lot with me within the context of ideas. I wouldn't say products, because we've been in a situation where, of course, there are a lot of stakeholders. You definitely have buy-ins from everyone. And I think we've come to a stage in our careers as well, where that testing, no matter what, is extremely important, because there are monies and there are the investment, the effort that goes into it when you are launching a product. And interestingly, Daniel Priestley also mentioned in one of his podcasts where there are ways of testing your product before actually putting in a lot of hard-earned money, efforts, etc., to building it in the first place. It's as simple as just creating a landing page and asking users if they would be interested to try it in the first place. If not, then come up with another idea, because there are so many ideas out there. But yeah, getting back to your question, it has happened a lot with me when I'm delivering products on my end in terms of communication. So of course there are different channels, and often people do get stuck to an idea because they worked really hard on it. But you have to have the courage to let that go if it does not add value to your user. So that has happened with me personally.
What sort of advice have you been given along your sort of journey from either other individuals in marketing or other leaders that have helped you to come up with either a marketing campaign or a way of doing life really in work that has really helped you?
What has helped me, so I've tried a lot of ways to do it. So I'm a person who experiments with different ways in order to find the best way to do it. And I like doing stuff that kind of breaks the monotony of doing certain set of things as well. Because of course there are things that you need to do. And then there are add-ons to kind of create that sort of excitement with the audience in the job that you're doing. So I kind of take this downward funnel approach, which kind of has worked really well for me as well. It's about breaking down. It's like a problem solving sort of an approach. So you break down the problem, break it into different data sets, and then try to list out what are the possible solutions to achieve them. and then identifying what is the best possible solution to get there. And that is something that I'm doing with marketing and storytelling as well, because in marketing, there are so many ways to communicate with your audience. There are so many messages that you can push out to your audience. So it's essentially about identifying what the objective is, what is it that you want to achieve, identifying what are the key messaging that you want to focus on, what is the best channel, because there are so many channels to do that. You can do that through a podcast, you can do that to social media, emailers, whatever it may be. What is the best solution? Which is the channel that your audience will be using? And that is where you hit the nail in the head, because there is no point communicating, in this case, for instance, communicating your messaging on Instagram when maximum of your audience is on LinkedIn. So it's just little things like these. And it's about identifying the fact that you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. You can be novel. But at the same time, you need to be cognizant of the fact that if everyone else is doing that, there must be some merit in that as well. So it's about breaking free from the herd mentality, but at the same time, trying to find that novelty and trying to find that right balance. So to answer your question, it's just the bottom down funnel approach to kind of break the problem, identifying the best solution, and then delivering onto it.
Have you got any instances where it hasn't worked out the way you wanted it to work, trying similar approaches?
It has actually, because what often happens is that there are certain projects or certain initiatives or tasks, for that matter of fact, that do not even require such a project. It just requires delivery and execution. But because you want to take that approach, because you want to ensure that the outcome you deliver is impactful and serves a purpose and it is great, without a mark of imperfection, you tend to invest a lot of time into something where the outcome is not necessarily that big in scale, if that makes sense. So it's just about identifying and prioritizing what task involves a lot of that effort to create that sort of an approach and what task just requires simple execution.
What would you say to anybody starting out, either wanting to start a new venture, whether it's the West Midlands or anywhere that you've encountered, to get things off the ground? I think about books like The Lean Startup and how it talks about testing and setting up an organization, but also learning from the market and prototyping, of course. I just think about that. And what advice would you give? Because so many of those skills are very relevant to delivery people. Every project can potentially be seen as a mini startup in its own right, and a startup as a mini project.
Don't wait until the very end just because you're not entirely sure of the validity of the idea. I know it sounds a bit contradictory. Do your research, of course, see whether the product is viable. But don't wait for too long, because you also then lose out on the perfect timing to launch it, if that makes sense. Because sometimes you sit onto the idea for so long because you want to make it perfect, but you're holding yourself back from actually going to market. So taking risk is important as long as it is a calculated risk. And interestingly, I was having a conversation with one of my friends who has been meaning to launch a startup as well. And I asked her that, when is it that you're planning to go with a soft launch at least? Have you tested it out? So she just mentioned that, no, I'm waiting to just make it a little better. And I said that you've been trying to do that for a very long time now. When will you go to market? I mean, you need to have a plan of action in place. You can't sit onto an idea, because then the idea loses its value, because you identified that gap at a certain period of time in the market. And we are living in a fast-paced, changing environment. What are the odds that the need that you've identified today will still remain tomorrow, or someone else will not already deliver onto that value just because you were waiting onto this opportunity that when I am ready and 100% confident with my idea is only when I will go to market. So the advice that I would give to people is that get a plan of action with a timeline ready and stay committed to your idea, to yourself. Of course, if when you test it out, you get a contradictory opinion, then just chuck that idea and come up with something else. But once you've done that, once you've got substantial feedback, get on with it. But also at the same time, calculate if the risks are not too high, then what's the harm of actually testing it out and create your own.
Brilliant. That's something I will certainly learn from and have learned from as well, for sure. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So can I ask about researching? Because one of the things that I think is quite often overlooked in delivering products through project teams is spending quality time user researching. What does the user actually want? Do we go out and gather some information from them before we even start to build anything? I suspect a lot of that is similar in terms of marketing the product as well, knowing which channels to use, which communities to go for. How important is user research when you go to market?
So there are a lot of ways in which you can do it. But you can start off small. For example, if we're starting off with an idea, bounce off that idea within your cloud, within your network, just get their feedback. But of course, you need to be mindful of the people you're bouncing your idea off. If they're your cheerleaders and rooters, they will only see it from a rosy lens. They might not be quite critical about the feedback. But at the same time, if you go up to challengers who will just critique your idea, they might just pull you back from actually trying it out. So it's important to find the right mix of people to bounce off that idea first. And then, yes, I would say it is critical that at every stage, and you identify what the right stages are, but it's important that at every stage you get your user testing in place so that you kind of validate your idea and validate yourself as well, because you'll be able to back that. And it is not just for self-esteem or self-confidence that you're doing that. Even when going forward, you are willing to raise investments, you are going to investors, or you're pitching your idea. They need data. They want to see that it has been backed by data and users are willing to use it. There is some scope of scalability in the future as well. So to answer your question, user research and user testing is extremely critical and important for any business or product development as well. We did that for the website also. I mean, the stakes were not too high. We did that for the website at each stage, be it for designing, be it for the different features that we were considering as well. And we've had some unexpected outcomes that kind of challenge your notion as well. And it is a good reality check for yourself also to understand that what you believe of your audience, that may not be the case when you actually ask them for their opinion.
Fabulous. So, yeah, I totally agree. It's one of those often overlooked and often not very well funded aspects of delivering change and releasing something out there to a market. So how important then for you is, and I know this is a loaded question because it's what you do, how important is marketing a product, and what challenges have you had marketing products to an audience? And in amongst that, if you don't mind, how important is the actual delivering the right thing in comparison to marketing it the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think both of them go hand in hand. And for all the ones who are into different fields, be it accounting or be it any other field in business, I might get a bit of a lashing there from what I'm about to say. But Peter Drucker, in fact, has also mentioned that there are two very important, or the sole important functions of a business are marketing and innovation. And I'm sure the finance guys are going to be like, oh no, money is extremely important. Business is about money. But it is about innovation and it is about marketing. And that, interestingly, also fits in well with your question, because you mentioned how important is it to deliver the right thing and to market it the right way. That's where innovation and marketing comes into picture. And because both of them go hand in hand, no matter how much of effort you put into selling the product, no matter how great your marketing campaign is, no matter how great your storytelling is, if the product does not deliver value, if it does not resonate with the audience, you're not going to create any sales. They're not going to buy your product. You will not have returning customers, and it's going to be hard for you to acquire new customers. And the same way, if you have an amazing product, but that is just sitting there, people don't know it, you are targeting the wrong audience through the wrong channels. It's just going to be sitting there lying around without being able to add value to the audience. So I think both of them go hand in hand, and both of them are equally important.
Dare I ask if there's been any instances where you've potentially marketed something away that you probably wouldn't have liked to?
But there have been times where I've had to deliver the product. But in those cases, as a marketer, then all I am doing is assessing the impact that I've created on those measures and metrics only. So I'm not necessarily looking at sales conversions. Then I'm only looking at reach. I'm only looking at impact, the number of people it has reached, the conversion rate, etc., and not necessarily the sales that marketing campaign has driven for the organization. So that's usually my way around it, because that's all I can do.
Of course. Great. So now I want to ask you a couple of more questions. One about your heroes. You've mentioned a few people that you follow. Mm-hmm. Who are your leadership heroes, and why? Who's your top 2 or 3?
Top 2 or 3 leadership heroes. Oh, that's quite a tricky question. And I might come across as someone who is extremely narcissist if I say that I don't necessarily have any heroes. I do have people and coaches to look up to, but there are certain values that I admire of them, because nobody is perfect. I mean, Steve Jobs. Oh my God. And the reason why, I would say that he is one of my marketing gurus. It's also because of his background. He worked at Pixar when he kind of changed the entire marketing strategy for Apple. And look at the job that he's done. I mean, the way he's communicating, and interestingly, if you think of Apple's marketing strategy, it is less about the features and more about the users. He has created the users as the hero in their story. It is not about the products or the feature of the phone. It is about, okay, we are empowering you to be the change makers. You are the new generation. You are the leaders. You are the next gen. And we are giving you the control over your own privacy, if that makes sense. So it's just the different ways in which you resonate with the audience.
Can't say no to a bit of Steve Jobs, actually. I thought you might ask me the same question, actually, and push it back to me, but...
yes, I might as well push it back to you, because...
Oh, gosh, why?
No, because it is quite a tricky question, right? When
it is very true.
For leaders, and I mean, for me as well, it's hard to answer that question, because we are living in a fast-pacing, changing environment, and you have leaders being born every day, considering the crazy ideas that they are coming up with, and they are changing lives. They are the change leaders. They are changing world. But yeah. Enough about me. Yeah, who are your top leaders? Yeah.
Okay, I won't spend too much time on this, because I'll probably bore you to death, and this podcast may end up being a 5-hour one. But so Elon Musk is a definite. Now that you asked, yeah, surely because he's divisive, absolutely. However, he's also very product focused, but he's also a very future focused. And in future, we're not talking the next 5 years as a roadmap. He looks at the next couple of decades and beyond. So what should the future look like, and what could the future look like without the changes that are required to make it what it should be? And then he works backwards and tries to minimize the barriers to entry as much as possible. And of course, he works in very capital intensive industries, which are tough to work in. But we can apply the same principles in industries that are less capital intense, in pure software related industries. And, I really like that vision of looking ahead and try to break down those barriers, but also look at how to monetize it along the way and delight people along the way. So with the automotive side of his empire, he looks to create the most compelling products. And how can you do that whilst also achieving a huge goal, which is all about sustainability? So think about it, what you will. That is certainly one. And incidentally, he has his chief designer. I love design, similar to you, as you mentioned, Steve. A guy called Franz von Holzhausen, who actually designed all of the vehicles. He again looks at minimizing and reducing parts and products as much as possible to really achieve the most value for money and to make it really compelling. So that's those are two individuals for sure, and there are many more as well that I learned from. There's a lot, like as you say, there's a lot of people to learn from.
Yeah.
It's just one or two of them.
Absolutely. Now we've had the product specialist talking, right? It has
Well,
in storytelling and marketing the right product, but now we've had.
Well, this is it. Product delivery is absolutely my thing, but for me, it's about the process of delivering, but also not letting the process get in the way, which I find super important. It's a very hard balance to achieve that. I like what you said about before as well about people. The people really matter, and that's a big takeaway for me. Something I've always focused on too. So I'm going to round up with another tricky-ish question for you.
Why are you doing this? Why am I so many tricky?
Because I have this opportunity. I need to make the most of it and put you on the spot as much as I can.
Well, that's what I'm here for. Go ahead.
Great. So the question really is, what's your takeaway that you would give to anyone that's in a delivery team, doing their best to understand what users need, doing their best to deliver the right things at the right time? What piece of advice would you give them as somebody who has product visions and sits at the other side of it sometimes in terms of stating what they need and driving the change from a leadership perspective? What would you say to them?
I think that to be innovative, often people don't even know what they need. And that is something that we call as latent demand, where people don't even know what is it that they need sometimes. And that's where your marketing and communication can come into picture, wherein you let them know that, hey, see, this is something that you probably would need. Then you get them. Then you have your early adopters wherein they try out and then they test it out. And those early adopters can actually be your advocates. I'm huge for advocacy. And again, it's all about people. It's about creating brand advocates. It is about creating enthusiasts who walk the walk, talk the talk, and speak about your product and just share their excitement to be associated with that brand, that value, or the product that they've been using. Because you would rather trust a fellow consumer than maybe a marketer who's flashing some ads on TV or on radio or social media, for that matter of fact. So being innovative, have the appetite to take some risk, again, calculative risks, and just don't go way too out being a gambler there. Take calculated risk, test your idea with the users, and get the right audience to test. Have like the right sample to test your users, because we've not touched upon having the right mix of users here, because often when you have a poorly defined or a poorly designed sample size to test your product, you often don't get the desired accurate results. So having diversity there as well is extremely important. And again, I cannot stress enough on the fact that don't hold yourself back. Have some faith, back yourself, back your idea. And I am talking from a perspective of startups and scale-ups here. Back yourself, back your idea. Don't lose time just because you are waiting for your idea to be perfect. It is about testing it and moving forward, making it better and better so that you're able to fit the audience needs. So if that answers your question, then I'm happy.
Absolutely does. That's amazing. Very good. Thank you very much. It's been an eye-opener. It's been a nice, chilled time, very insightful. Hope you got something from it as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Are there any key things coming up for Tech West Midlands that you might want to shout about or talk about?
While I was just talking about commitment culture, and I was talking about having the right culture of it, and also being advocates. I am a big tech advocate, to be really honest, and I take pride in being a part of the West Midlands tech sector, and I'm glad that I could find home in the West Midlands tech sector, because there is so much that is happening in our tech space. There is an estimated of 2.7 billion economic value add that we'll be able to create until 2025. We have this huge ambition to be the next tech and digital, globally recognized tech and digital superpower. We're doing some amazing things. And we've recently announced a £1 million investment into the projects that will help accelerate the vision and the mission that we've realized. And we've launched special interest groups, especially for the women in tech, for the AI and Future Tech Forum, that now that we're talking about innovation and creating leaders, change makers as well. So there's a lot that's happening from a Tech West Midlands point of view. But the next big thing is, of course, Birmingham Tech Week. That's going to take place in October from the 21st to the 25th. And it's going to be a massive celebration, inviting everyone within the ecosystem to just come and celebrate, get inspired, and share knowledge, resources, add value, and just have a good time and celebrate the successes of the people in the West Midlands tech sector.
Brilliant. I will be there. I'll make sure I attend,
yes,
as always. So there you have it. We've met Anushka. We've got some really good insights to take away. And if you want to stay connected, just follow the show. Or if you've got any ideas or suggestions or feedback, you can contact me directly on mail@changeleadersplaybook.com. Other than that, I hope to catch up with you again soon.